Hi, everybody. This is Giovanna Franklin from Homeopathy Heals, and this is the course on tissue salts. And today we're going to deal with and talk about Calcarea fluorata, which is the very first tissue salt that you can find. There are 12 in totals, as you probably already know, and we're going to go in numerical order. So we know that Calcarea fluorata or calcium fluoride is the number one. I'm going to go through my notes about this because there is quite a lot to talk about, and we're going to go through not just the physical symptoms that tissue salts can help with, but also the mental, emotional symptoms. We're going to talk about food and how we can actually get our minerals and our essential minerals like calc, fluor from our food, which is also a very useful thing to know because, as I always say, food should be our first medicine, and we should treat and consider medicine our food. So so what can we say about Calcarea fluorata? Calcarea fluorata, the main characteristics are really flexibility and toning. So these are the two words, the two key words for Calcarea fluorata. So any tissue, any ligaments, any tendons, any physical structure that needs to be elastic and supple. Our skin, for example, needs Calcarea fluorata, and so pretty much everywhere in our body we need that. So I'm going to start from the skeletal system. So our skeleton, Calcarea fluorata, is definitely very, very good in cases of accidents, fractures, bone fractures. I took Calcarea fluorata quite a lot a couple of years ago when I broke my wrist, and the healing time was definitely shortened thanks to tissue salts, because the doctors had told me I would be in a cast for up to 8 weeks. Also, considering my age, because after 30, your bones, it's true, they don't heal as quickly as when you are younger. But thanks to the tissue salts that I was taking every day, I was actually fine after 4 weeks. And so I'm very happy to report that this has been, the effectiveness of tissue salts has been tested and tried. So definitely joints, finger joints, pain and inflammation in the joints due to gout, for example, or arthritis. Calcarea fluorata is definitely very, very beneficial for that. Our teeth are part of our skeletal system, and Calcarea fluorata is a fantastic tissue salt that can resolve, heal cavities, prevent cavities, particularly in children, but also in adults. And it's great to rebuild enamel if you have teeth that are discolored, for example, where the enamel has been eroded, or you have discoloration, when sometimes the teeth are going a little bit gray with age. Calcarea fluorata is an excellent remedy. I have seen a lot of children with cavities, and some children seem to be prone to cavities no matter what their diet is. For example, I have seen children where the parents are incredibly frustrated because they are very careful about avoiding sugar and avoiding soda and eating really healthy and brushing their teeth, of course, and teeth hygiene, and yet their children can be prone to cavities, and calcarea fluorata together with calcarea phosphorica have definitely solved a lot of issues with the teeth. Calcarea fluorata is also very useful when you have delayed dentition in children, and it can also be used as a mouthwash. So if you take calcarea fluorata in drops, you can use it as a mouthwash, and that will protect all the teeth and the gums. And it also helps in case of sensitive teeth. So other other ways where calcarea fluorata is very effective, and perhaps it's not very well reported, is in our digestion, because calcarea fluorata can be very useful in helping our metabolism, speed up the metabolism, because it's very good at breaking down carbs and fats. So that can help our digestion. It can help the metabolism get quicker, and that way we don't have the typical bloatedness after eating carbs, for example. So just taking calcarea fluorata before and after a meal. Another area where calcarea fluorata is very effective are our eyes. And again, when we think about all the types of tissues in the body that need to be kept supple, elastic, toned, think about the eyes, the retina, think about issues like cataracts, for example. This salt will really quickly correct a delay in focusing, for example, if we're having cataracts or if we're having floaters. And this is something else that I know quite a lot about, because I have had cataracts and floaters, and this is something else that I have been able to resolve with tissue salts. Also things like blurred vision, conjunctivitis, and again, this is not the only tissue salts. You can work with Natmure tissue salt as well. And you have to take it very frequently during the day, every 3 or 4 hours. I would also suggest, of course, you work with a homeopath, you get your eyes checked by an optician regularly if you know you have these issues, because you have to be able to monitor the progress and the improvements. So like I say, often when if you know you have any chronic condition, do not just DIY. Tissue salts are very good to know, to understand, because they can be an excellent support for the treatment that you are receiving. However, if you know that you have been having a chronic condition for a period of time, do consult a homeopath, but know and maybe suggest, because even homeopaths sometimes do not think of tissue salts as the first port of call or even a supporting role. They go straight to perhaps the constitutional remedy or protocols or other treatments, and they might underestimate the effectiveness of tissue salts, and they can be very powerful as well. Okay, so talking about circulation, going back to the digestion system, calcarea fluorata is also very good in cases of hemorrhoids, varicose veins, again, together with perhaps homeopathic remedies like hamamelis. But they're also very effective in these cases. And again, you can be creative with tissue salts. We think of tissue salts just as the tablets, but the tablets can be crushed and they can be mixed into arnica cream, for example, in cases of hemorrhoid, and applied topically. The tablets can also be dissolved, like in the case of the mouthwash. You can dissolve them in water and use them as liquid. So there are different ways of taking tissue salts as well. So don't limit yourself to just the tablets. In terms of skin, calcarea fluorata is very good for chapped skin, for cracks, cracks in the heels, for example, for dry skin. This kind of type of skin that tends to dry, particularly in winter when we are putting the heating on, the central heating on, and that can tend to dry our skin quite a lot and create cracks, and some people's skin cracks and bleeds in these cases. So this is where calcarea fluorata really helps you, because again, it's about keeping the tissues elastic, keeping the tissues supple. Okay. In terms of feminine problems, female problems, so we can have issues like very heavy periods with blood clots, painfulness, and again, there are homeopathic remedies like Sabina, for example, that I would prescribe for these issues. But again, but also calcarea fluorata can be an excellent remedy to prevent, to take throughout the month, and not just when it's occurring, when the symptoms are occurring. And it's a great remedy to tone up the uterus, to prevent, for example, prolapse for women after pregnancy or after a miscarriage. It's a really, really good remedy that tones the tissues and keeps the elasticity of the tissues. Respiratory system, that's another way that calcarea fluorata can really help in cases of asthma, particularly if there is a productive cough. You can take 2 tablets in these cases under the tongue every 15 minutes if you're feeling that sensation of tightness in the chest. And also for postnasal drip, middle ear infection, again, it's about toning the membranes, the internal mucous membranes of the nose, of the lungs, and keep everything supple and working better. Now, in terms of urinary system, again, calcarea fluorata can be really, really supportive, particularly after a certain age, after menopause, but men as well, when your bladder becomes more sensitive, you need to maybe wake up during the night once or more than once to go to the bathroom. Again, toning up and keeping everything supple and working more efficiently. Now, about the mental emotional symptoms. Calcarea fluorata is typically associated with a sense of restlessness and melancholia, sadness that is worse for damp condition, for the weather. If you get the blues in the winter, particularly if you live in the North Hemisphere and the days are getting shorter and darker, and you tend to feel not, I wouldn't say completely full-blown depressed, but you tend to get a bit more melancholic, a little bit more sadness. Or if you perhaps suffer from seasonal syndrome, then calcarea fluorata is also for you. If you tend to be irritated easily, you have a kind of pessimistic trait, personality kind of way, in that you're seeing the glass always half empty rather than half full. Calcarea fluorata can really help in this case. For younger people, for children perhaps, or students, it can help with lack of concentration, instability or erratic behavior, perhaps hyperactive children who cannot sit still or who cannot really focus in class. This can be a very, very good remedy to help you with concentration and mood stability, let's say. And in terms of food and herbs, where we can get our calcium fluoride, very, very simple and common foods are garlic, parsley, sage. And we know that sage, for example, is quite famous for helping the mental acuity, memory, and so on. Mustard, chives, buckwheat, which is very high in rutin, and rutin is also what we find in the herb and the homeopathic remedy ruta, which we also use in terms of strain, in terms of, strained eyesight or strained tendons, particularly in the joints. So calcarea fluorata goes really very well with ruta if you have these kind of physical conditions. Lemon as well. And other foods that are rich in calcarea fluorata are grapes, oranges, pumpkin, squash, so great for this season, in particular the autumn, winter season, cabbage, onions. Anybody with tendency to joint pain or perhaps to gouty deposit or with swollen joints should probably avoid wheat, bread, these kind of pro-inflammatory foods, and sugar, of course. But rye bread, substitute with rye bread, and all the fruits with vitamins C, A, and D that we have mentioned. In terms of constitutional tissue salts, now this is something that not all homeopaths agree on. I just put it out there because I find that sometimes it is beneficial. It does not apply 100% to everybody. And this is true for just everybody. And homeopathy does not do protocols anyway. As we know, it's about the individual. However, there is a certain similarity or a certain theme connection, let's say, between astrological signs and tissue salts. And so calcarea fluorata is connected to the sign of Cancer. And this is something that some people like Cancer astrologically have tried and have confirmed that it works for them, particularly on the mood side. So just to sort of fight that tendency to pessimism that I was talking about before. And it can be a constitutional salt for Cancer, people with a star sign of Cancer. So do take this with a pinch of salt. However, you can try, and the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't do much for them. But I do encourage you to try, and then maybe let me know what happens. So this is everything for today. This is everything about calcarea fluorata. And I'm going to post a video one video for each of the 12 tissue salts. This video is available to everybody who wants to watch it. It's freely available. If you want to access all the other tissue salts, all the other videos on tissue salts, and also all the other videos on other courses that I have available on Patreon, all you have to do is upgrade to homeopathy fan, and it's only $5 a month, and you can access all the course material on my channel. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.